Well, welcome this evening to the second video chat in May. It's been a lovely day for me. I've gotten to spend much of the day outside, mowing lawns, cleaning up messes, picking up sticks, starting fires. Love starting fires. Never quite recovered from my childhood where I must have not been allowed to start enough fires. Actually, my parents would tell you I started way too many fires. Call my parents anytime, they'd be glad to tell you about the time that I started a rather large fire in a state forest and was nearly thrown in prison by the park rangers. But that's a story for another time. So let's begin with a comment here. Here we are. A comment and a question from a viewer. I have an issue with manipulation. When you tell anyone else how great they're doing or that they have a nice outfit on, for example. How do I know that I'm not just manipulating people to get them to like me? That type of manipulation got me where I was in the first place, before real love, which was unhappy. It's easy to manipulate people, so most of the time I choose not to do it at all. I can offer kind words, and I feel like I need nothing from them, but it still feels like I might be manipulating them. So what's the difference between real love and manipulation? As it is, I tend to avoid saying nice things now so that I'm not manipulating people. So when you do say nice things to people, when you praise them, and see, even though I say that praise is one of the forms of imitation love, you can praise people and not be using imitation love. Praise just happens to be one of the forms of imitation love. When you say nice things to people, just notice, observe yourself, step back either during or after the event, and notice whether you want anything from them. Do you look, for example, when you praise them, to see if they like what you say? Do you want them to say something nice back to you? Do you look to see if they feel flattered? Do you want them to be grateful to you for saying something nice to you? Do you want them to like you in return? Or when you say something nice to them, can you just walk away and forget it? Can you say, your hair looks nice like that? And then just drop it. It's not manipulation when we can say something nice to somebody and simply give it to them as a piece of useful information. That's how you tell whether you're manipulating them. Unhelpful praise, unhealthy praise, tends to be about somebody as a person. So we would say something to them like, "Oh, you are a good boy. Oh, I'm so proud of you." See, as a person, you are a good boy. I'm so proud of you. Whereas helpful feedback or positive feedback, which is a healthy form of praise, tends to be more specific. It tends to be useful information, something that they can then use in the future. "Oh, you're a good boy" is an evaluation of them. How do they make use of that? Whereas if I say to somebody, that thing you did for me yesterday, it helped me in the following ways. When you gave me that report, it was very useful for me in the meeting that I had with Fred and Susan today. It helped me with the following customers. It helped me blah, blah, blah. And I found it very useful that you gave it to me on time. I found it useful that you presented it in the following ways. It was just very useful. I really appreciate it. Now, see how specific and clear it was? I tell them how it helped me. Now, they can use that information in preparing future reports. That's positive feedback. That's useful. I didn't evaluate that person. I didn't evaluate them as a human being. And then I'm careful, I'm not manipulating them to do it again. Oh, I'm so proud of you. Oh, you make me so happy. See? I didn't do any of that. I'm not trying to get them to do anything. No, I'm just giving them information. So if you consider those characteristics of positive feedback versus praise, you won't fall into the trap of manipulating people. Just something to think about. Here's a different viewer who says, tonight I went out with some colleagues from work. This is a woman. One of them had organized an event where we went go-karting, which I hadn't tried before. So I thought I would see if I liked it. I felt nervous because I hadn't been out with this particular group, which has a tendency to be quite cliquey. Not as in making the clicking noise, but in other words, non-inclusive. CLIQUEY. We had to put helmets on for our protection since they were wearing go-karts, and wear overalls. And after putting my helmet on and off quite a few times, my hair was a mess and became flat as a pancake. I find that I feel bad about myself whenever I feel that I don't look particularly good, which, of course, in our society is almost a universal characteristic. Everywhere we go, we want to look our best, don't we? We want to say the right thing, do the right thing, create a good appearance, a good impression in every imaginable way. And our external physical appearance is kind of like the most obvious thing, isn't it? That's the thing that people see first. And we heard this from birth. You take a baby virtually out of the womb, and what do people say? You wrap this little baby in swaddling clothes, and immediately people go, oh, how, what do they say? Oh, how cute. Right off the bat, we're evaluating this child as to how this child looks physically. Well, that's kind of pathetic, isn't it? Because I've been present when a child is especially homely or not attractive, and the mother takes the wrapping off the face of this child, and what do people say then? Oh, it's alive. People don't know what to say because they're so used to evaluating this child according to how it looks. It's kind of superficial on our part, isn't it? Then you continue. This feeling goes way back in my life, at least in my teen years, when I became quite preoccupied with how I looked, as most people do. I'm not a stunner, but I can look reasonably attractive, especially with a little makeup. I remember that I had a really good male friend at school. He was very good looking. We got on really well and were really close, but I knew the reason why we were never a couple was because I was not good looking enough for him. Now, it just pains me to read this paragraph that you wrote. I mean, hearing you say, I am not a stunner, just kills me. Because, you must have heard in how many different ways from probably even your own parents, certainly from your peers, from who knows how many people, well, just in glances and offhand comments, in your own evaluation, comparing yourself to the covers of magazines, well, you're not quite attractive enough. Oh, gosh, what a superficial standard we set for ourselves. And how painful that is. Then you continue. Later he went out, this friend of yours, with a girl who was very pretty. It seems all my life I've had so many situations where I was left alone while others got loved. And the fact is, it seems that most of them, these others who got loved, were pretty or handsome. I don't like to be preoccupied with something like this, as it is shallow, but I guess if I had been filled with unconditional love all my life, I would not have felt the same need to wish I had the looks, because at least That would have got someone's attention. Anyway, what could I have done when I started to feel bad tonight? I guess I should have phoned someone in real love and told them how I felt. Maybe, but that's kind of like a pat response. Well, so when I feel bad, I'll call somebody in real love. But when you're in the middle of the go-kart track, it may not be always practical to make a real love call. So you can always tell the truth right in the moment, right where you are. So instead of hiding who you are and sitting there and feeling bad, now this takes practice. And you would first have had to practice telling the truth about your preoccupation with how you look with some real love people before you got to an event like this. Admittedly, that would take some practice. But it might look like this. Just instead of avoiding the truth, which is what you were doing, draw attention to the truth. So you might say something like, so you look at and you can see that your hair is all flat. And so you might say, so how do you like this hair, huh? Hard to tell whether I still have the helmet on or whether it's off, isn't it? Instead of avoiding it, draw attention to it so that you give people an opportunity to actually laugh at it, and you get to see in many people's faces their acceptance of you. Now, some people won't. Yeah, whatever. But no big deal, because in your mind, you've already created a situation where they're not. So at least by drawing attention to it and telling the truth about it, you're going to see in some people's eyes, you're going to see some acceptance you would otherwise have never seen. Whereas by not drawing attention to it, you've pretty much created a situation where in your head, everybody's not accepting you. Do you see? So you've gone from nobody accepting you to at least some people laughing with you, instead of in your mind where everybody's laughing at you, or at least kind of shying away from you because of your hair looking bad. So, you could, and there are other things you could say, and you kind of practice these things in your head. You could say, out loud, I wonder if they have an extra helmet here so that I could, take it home, so that, whenever I want to make my hair look like this, I could, put one on and create this appearance at home so that I could, have this look whenever I feel like it. People will laugh with you now instead of you're feeling all alone. Now you've created a bond with people who are looking at you and admiring you for having the guts to talk about it. Because I promise you, if you're having this feeling, other people are doing it too. So don't dodge it. Make fun of yourself and bring it out into the open. It's really a hoot. Telling the truth relieves the tension in so many situations. Kind of like, when you're in public and like you stumble and fall. What we often do is we say nothing and we let people laugh at us. So much better when you stumble and fall to look straight into the faces of the people that are around you and go, pretty graceful, huh? Draw everybody's attention right to you for having been a buffoon, and now have them laughing with you. Because now many people are going to be accepting you. It really transforms the situation. Here's a viewer who says, I was talking to my partner about my spiritual journey. Hang on a second. And how I'm finding it difficult that I do not share this with him. He can see that I'm really searching, but the thing is, when you live with someone, they're not fooled. They can see whether what you're doing is giving you peace or not. I can't say that my search has brought me that much peace these last years, but sometimes I think the fact that he cannot share the struggle with me has probably made me more crazy at times. It seems what often happens is he gets frustrated or says, what do you expect me to do? Or he says that he doesn't think that I'm going to find what I'm looking for in God and spirituality, and then I feel crushed. Or he says, I am interested in what you're saying, but I can't listen to you talk about God all night long. Am I banging my head against a brick wall here? I guess I am looking for God, but for him the question of whether God exists or not is not that important. If he was being unconditionally loving, and I was talking about these kinds of things, what would he say? As I'm sure you've said to me before, if I want to talk about something and he consistently doesn't, then why be in a relationship with that person? He often talks about how I'm obsessed with these questions and why can't I be more interested in normal things? And I end up feeling like I'm some sort of crazy person. But the thing is, as far as I can see, spirituality is central to everything. What you think about it, what you prioritize, how you live your life. So I guess, yes, it's going to be something that preoccupies you. Am I obsessed? So if God and spirituality, which are different from religion, are important to you, and it's not up to me to judge whether they should be important, they're important to you, then it would be important for you to find a partner who at the very least is willing to listen to you as you talk about these subjects. Now, the partner with whom you live, you're not married to. And so, because you've told me that before. And so you have a choice about, or shall I say an easier choice about whether you're going to stay with this guy. So you would at least want to be with a partner who, if not equally interested in this subject, would at least be willing to listen to you while you express your interest in this subject. So, for example, my wife, Donna, she and I are interested in a number of subjects at different levels of interest. Well, we don't have to have equal interest in subjects, but when either of us speaks, the other listens. So, for example, recently Donna was preparing for a bridal shower. I wouldn't care if there was never a bridal shower on the face of the planet. And she was talking about preparing decorations. I had no clue that all this went into the preparation for a bridal shower. None. All these little hand decorations and balloons and flowers and stuff. And she was obviously really interested in it. If anybody else were telling me about this, I would have fallen instantly asleep as though anesthetized, because I do not care about these things. But because she was telling me, because it's a subject that mattered to her, I was not only interested, not only listening with my full attention, but said, so what can I do to help? And so here I am actually making these little things, these little paper flowers and blowing up balloons and tying ribbons, and not because I have to, but because it interests her. So see, it's not just about because the subject would be of a grand scale, like spirituality or the universe or God. If it matters to your partner, well then, because it's important to him or her, then suddenly it becomes an important subject. And if your partner doesn't get that, then something's wrong. And I'm not telling you what to do, but I'm saying that's something to consider in evaluating your partner. No matter what it is. If your partner is fascinating by the mating habits of the fruit fly, well then, just because your partner's interested, then that's a reason to listen. And it seems that he's not. So That's something that you might think about in evaluating, because this has been going on and on for you in your relationship with this guy for some time, in evaluating whether you want to persist in a relationship where you continue to be frustrated by a partner who's not interested in a subject that's a huge part of your life. Something to think about. Question: can the real love principles help me to stop taking tranquilizers and or sleeping pills at night to get to sleep and to stay asleep? I'd like to stop taking them and just get to sleep naturally. It's a fact that the happier we are, the more physically healthy we are. I mean, that's, wow. How many studies have they done about that? So, anxiety is probably the greatest cause of physical problems on the planet. Anxiety is probably the greatest cause of sleep disturbances on the planet. So, the greatest cause of anxiety is the absence of real love in our lives. So it therefore only naturally follows that the more unconditionally loved we feel, the more likely it becomes that we'll be able to experience a more natural sleep in the absence of the assistance of drugs. So, yeah, it's much more likely that as you not just practice an understanding of the principles, but as you feel more unconditionally loved, that instead of, as you go to bed, finding your mind racing and disturbed and in conflict, which is what keeps people awake, that you'll find yourself feeling at peace. And as you do that, when people find their minds at peace, they find it, on the whole, relatively easy to go to sleep. Now, there usually is a time, if people have been on tranquilizers or some kind of sleeping pill at night, there often is a period of time where there's an adjustment in getting off them. And that adjustment period can sometimes be difficult. It depends on the kind you're on. Some kinds are pretty difficult to get off of. And if you're on a prescription sleeping medication, you probably want to talk to your doctor about just stopping it all of a sudden. Some of them are just downright dangerous to stop all of a sudden. Some are not. Some you can just stop and no big deal. But some are dangerous, and so you probably want to talk to your doctor, depending on the kind you're on, to see what, whether you can do that. But the more loved people feel, the more peaceful. And, even the sleeping pill advertisements say, what do they promote? They promote a deep, peaceful sleep. Well, if you can do that naturally by feeling loved and peaceful, hallelujah. And yes, it is more likely. And as people feel more loved, they report that they do everything easier. Sleep, everything. Here's a viewer who says, let's see, our pastor, our minister, is drowning. Big time. Basically, he's not mature enough or disciplined enough to meet the needs of this small church. And he refuses to face or admit any faults or shortcomings. My husband and I do care for him and his family and hate to see him lose his job, which is very likely unless he wakes up. That's very common, by the way. It's very common for ministers to have a really strong difficulty with admitting that they're wrong. Many ministers go into this helping profession because they have a need to help people. Not a healthy desire to help people, but a need to help people, which is quite different. because a healthy desire to help people is out of loving. A need to help people is a need to be important, a need to be valued, a need to have people cherish them so that they will become better than they are, better than they feel that they are, a need to be loved by the people that they help. It's a trade. And so it's a need for power and praise. And so a great number of ministers end up getting in trouble because they end up controlling their congregations. They end up doing things just for praise. They end up getting in trouble sexually. They end up becoming addicted to pornography. Pornography is in fact sometimes referred to as the minister's disease. And as I go from congregation to congregation, as I have now probably 150 or more of them, probably more than that actually, a great many ministers have taken me aside and said, well, let me tell you about my marriage, my personal life, my porn addiction, my drug problem. It's a pretty isolating profession because everybody expects them to be good. Everybody expects them to have no problems. And who are they going to talk to? What group are they going to go to? Because no matter what they say, instantly, whatever they say about their personal lives is going to spread like fire everywhere they go, and everybody's going to talk about them. So it's a tough job to have. Then you continue. We do see him trying to keep his head above water while he splashes those around him. He often uses the pulpit to meet his own needs, which is what I was just talking about, and to justify himself. He's very defensive and attacks anyone who crosses him, often using Scripture in his defense. That's pretty common. And you got to love that one, when people use God to defend themselves. It's very seductive. You continue. He hates people to talk about any problems in the church and wants to keep any conflicts secret, which is understandable because if there are conflicts in the church, it would make him look bad. It would make him look like he was an inadequate shepherd. And, of course, then he has to deal with them. So, for multiple reasons, he doesn't want conflicts to come out in the open. His sermon yesterday was entitled, Trust Must Be Earned. Basically defending his right not to trust some people. So, this guy's obviously very afraid. My husband, mother-in-law, and son and family were part of a church split before, and we hate to leave yet another church. Also, we don't want the members of this small congregation to feel like we're abandoning them. We enjoy and care for them. My husband was a board member when this pastor was hired, and he still does the church books. One church member who stopped coming tried to talk with the pastor about his need to be right, but he refused to listen to her. I told him about the Real Love book and gave him a copy a couple of years ago, but he's never read it, even though he knew several members of our church were studying it. You have to remember, he has this powerful need to be right, so the likelihood that he would read any book that proclaimed it would help people become happier, well, he couldn't do that because he's already put himself out as the purveyor of happiness. He's in charge of everything. So he couldn't admit that he had a problem. He already knows everything. He wouldn't need help. And certainly he couldn't accept help from a member of the congregation. That would be just impossible. Do you think that I should try to lovingly tell him about what I've learned from the book, trusting that he can respond? Or do you think, since I do want him to change and probably can't stay in the church if he doesn't, I'd better just leave the pig without further efforts? I would appreciate your insight and advice. Thanks. So, this is tough. So you pretty much have to make your decisions one at a time, and then you have to decide. Like you've said here, you probably can't stay in the church if he doesn't change. Well, you can't say probably. So you have to decide. Why are you in this church? Are you there to socialize? Are you there to play bingo? Are you there to goof around? Is it just kind of to be with your friends? What? Are you there for spiritual uplift? Are you getting what you need there? You've got to make a decision. for all those reasons kind of combined. And can you accomplish all that with this pastor there not changing? Now, it kind of sounds like you made your decision, but you have to make one. And it can't be probably. And I can't help you make the decision. If you decide that, yeah, you can stay there with the minister unchanged, well then, okay, fine. You're probably going to have to live with him being like he is. He sounds very intent on being right. If you decide that you can't stay there with this guy living, continuing to be like he is, then there's a possibility that you might be able to affect some change. But then you got a decision. Then you got your second decision to make. So the first one is, okay, no, I can't stay there if he stays like this. Then the second one is, are you willing to do what it takes to help this guy change? Are you willing to take whatever heat comes down the road with really making an effort to change this guy? And are you really willing to leave? Because if you are, then you may be able to help this guy. Because people who are determined to be right can sometimes be reached if the price is high enough. If you just go in and you say, I think there are some things you need to learn. Remember, this guy is already his own God. He's already created a religion of one, him. And so he's going to tell you to go stick it if you do that. Whereas if you've decided you're going to do whatever it takes, then there's a possibility you might get through to him. And in that case, I would go in with you and probably one other person. Your husband, I would make it a man. My guess is that a guy like this probably respects women less. That's usually the case. And have two people there, and then go in there and say to this guy, there's something that I would like to communicate with you, and I'd like you to just listen until I'm done. Would you be willing to do that? If he's not, there's no sense even trying to talk to him. But if he's willing to listen till you're done, then you say, here's what's been going on here. Like you said, there's already been somebody who's left the congregation. There have probably been others. And you say, we've been observing this and this and this, and there's contention building in the church. It's a small church. The church isn't growing. There are people actually leaving. And there's me and my husband and my children and my mother, and there are 1, 2, 3, and you tell him how many other people, that unless there's not a mild change, but a dramatic change in these problems that have gone on, and it's a huge change in his attitude, in who he is, that he's got an attitude of having to be right about everything and defending everything. Unless there's a dramatic change, that these people are going to be gone, and he won't have a job until he sees that the consequences of his behavior are dire. They're serious. The likelihood of him listening is teeny. And you have to say it just as calm as a summer's breeze. And you say, I'm not asking you to change. You have to emphasize that. I am not asking you to change for my convenience. I'm not. Because if you don't, I'm just saying, we're going to find another place to go. That will not be a problem for us. The reason I'm telling you about this is because I would like to help you. You have to be so clear on this point. If you go in there saying, I'm telling you this because I want you to change so we can stay because we want you to, no, you're dead. No. You say, we're already planning to go. So I'm only just telling you that the consequences of your continuing this are serious. But if you're willing to do this, then we would consider staying. We're just describing the consequences of the continuation of your behavior. And if you're willing, then we think that we even have a possible solution. Now, what would you like to do? And then if he starts defending himself and saying, well, I'm right, and then you just say, hey, it was just an idea, and we thank you for your time. And you leave. If he starts defending himself, you're done. But if he says, oh, you're so right, I mean, I'm always having to be right and control things, and this behavior has been hurting me in so many ways, then you could say, well, so I have this book that I think might be able to help you, or whatever. You could describe your love to him. But you don't try to change his mind if he's not willing to listen. You're not going to persuade him. Here's a viewer who says, I have a friend that I cannot accept and love. She's talking about this new wonder juice that optimizes stem cells. I expected her to be kind of dumb about medicine. I myself am the Royal Highness of medicine. I know a whole lot more. And for a moment, I believed that this might be a wonder juice. But when I asked her about the clinical trial data, she responded that I must have a trust issue and that I'm not on the right level to understand this new wonder juice. I became so effing irritated that while I was driving, my foot started shaking on the gas pedal. I cannot believe people are this stupid. She said the most important thing to know is that the doctors who are vouching for this product are the real deal. Oh, gee, you don't say. And surprise, they're selling this stuff by way of a pyramid scheme. Shocking. I get this way with a lot of things. Recently, it was my friend's decision to marry a guy she'd barely met, and I turned into a wolverine, ready to spew blood and guts all over the highway. My reaction to the pyramid schemer took me by total surprise. I was very irritated while speaking to this person, and now I want to know, what can I say to her to make it all better with her in the short run? But in the long run, I know I need to make calls. Can you translate what I'm doing in real love terms? Why is this monster waking up inside me? Right before she called, P.S., right before she called, my dog hurt his leg and I was scared that he'd injured it. Was I feeling scared and therefore had less ability to love and see her? That's pretty smart pickup on your part. So keep it simple. Anytime, and keep in mind that I don't have you here to ask more questions, but you know, we're all pretty much the same, so this is very likely to fit your situation. Whenever we react in a non-loving way to anything, like you did, to your friend about the wonder juice that, optimizes stem cells, we're not feeling loved, and we're not, feeling loving. And so there's something empty in us, and we're reacting to that, and it's usually something from the past, usually something long-standing from the past. In this case, here's this lady who is going to be selling this stuff in a pyramid scheme. And you're saying, how could she be so stupid? So what you're saying is, how could you be so stupid as to be taken advantage of by these pyramid schemers? Even more, you're wondering, how could she then in turn victimize other people with this pyramid scheme? So even though she's not going to victimize you, what you're doing here is what I call the vicarious victim. So you're feeling angry at not you being victimized, but you're feeling vicariously or angry on behalf of her who's being victimized. You're feeling angry on behalf of all the people she's going to be victimizing. In other words, you're angry at these people who've invented this wonder juice that you believe are taking advantage of all these people. Why? Because you, in turn, were hurt earlier by other people. And who wasn't? Any time that we were not sufficiently unconditionally loved in our lives, we were victimized. We were hurt. We were hurt by our parents. We were hurt by our peers. We were hurt by the kids on the school ground. We were hurt by our peers who laughed at us because, we didn't have the right clothes, or our hair didn't look right, or we weren't pretty enough, or we weren't smart enough, or we made mistakes in the classroom and people giggled and snickered and excluded us from the clique, like somebody talked about earlier. We were hurt in so many ways by people who didn't care about us, who weren't tender, who weren't accepting, who weren't compassionate, who weren't inclusive, because we weren't loved. And I mean, we were hurt thousands of times. And when we were younger, we didn't know what to do about it. We didn't know how to get the love that we really needed. We, in many cases, wanted to lash out and hurt the people who didn't love us, but we didn't know how. We weren't strong enough. We didn't know what to do. And now we can't go back and kill all those people who hurt us, although sometimes we want to. And so now when we see somebody who is being victimized in the present, there's something within us that makes us want to rise up, put a sword in our hands, and kill them all. We want to kill everybody who's hurting somebody who's being victimized in the present. Even though, in many cases, we don't have that strong an attachment to the people who are being victimized. I've seen husbands, for example, stand up and threaten to kill somebody who is being unkind to their wives, even though they themselves have beaten their wives. There's this vicarious victim thing that we do. It gives us a source of power. It makes us feel strong to defend the underdog. And it kind of gives us a sense of strength all these years later over those people who hurt us in the past. And my guess is that some of that's going on here with you. How I cannot believe you say here in capital letters that people are this stupid. And you kind of want to get them. And, it helps us to realize that, people are this stupid. People really get to make this stupid of mistakes. And the people who are selling this wonder juice, in many cases, really get to, and I don't know what this juice is, so I don't know whether it works or not. But in many cases, people sell stuff like this, really get to be this deceptive. I've seen specials done on products like this, where they take just absolute garbage, just meaningless, undocumented crap, and they put it in capsules and they mix it up in slurries and put food coloring in it and then put labels on it. And because of laws that have been passed now, as long as you call it herbal this and herbal that, you can sell anything you want to and call it a herbal product and a food supplement, and you can get away with almost anything. You don't have to document it as long as you don't call it a drug. So you're right. Are people this stupid? Mm-hmm. And are there people out there who are willing to take advantage of stupid people? Yeah, there are. And there's part of us that wants to just hurt them for doing that. And that's the part that comes out in you. So that helps you understand why. Here's a 7-year-old. 7 years old, wrote and said, my dad signed me up for summer camp. I don't want to go to summer camp. It's boring. I told Dad I didn't want to go, but he signed me up anyway. Dads do that. Mom says I can be happy there even if it's boring. How? I love 7-year-old sentences because they're short and I can understand them. So I wrote back to the 7-year-old and said, I said, how do you know it's boring? Have you been before? And I wasn't trying to talk you into anything. I was just asking. He wrote back. He said, yes, I have been to camp. My friends go there too. Sometimes I get bored of what my friends play. I get bored whenever my friends get checked out from camp, and I don't. I don't know how you get checked out from camp, but I believe you. Whatever that is, that apparently they're not there and you are. They sing really dumb songs at the camp, but one song is really, really funny. So I get it. I get that sometimes camp is boring. And so what I'm going to suggest to you is you're 7. And at 7, you're going to have an opportunity now to expand what you know in a lot of ways. So right now you know school, you know what goes on at home, you know probably a couple of sports, you know some video games, and what your dad's trying to do is just widen your world so you know more. So you know more things and know more people and have more experiences. Because it is a fact that the more stuff you know, the more people you know, the more experiences you've had, the more things you've seen and done, the more people you've interacted with, the more confident you'll become. That's true. And so it's good to get out there and do different things and meet different people. That's how you learn. It's how you grow. Now, some of the things that we learn from, they're boring. Some of them are good, some of them are boring, and that's unavoidable. Just like at school. You have to go to school. In fact, they make it a law because it's so important. And when you go to school, some of the classes are really good. You learn good things, but I'm sure you've noticed that when you go to school, even though maybe this much of the day contains good stuff, this much of the day is boring. And they don't let you check out of the boring part of the school day. You don't get to go to just the fun part, and then when you get to the boring part, you don't get to say to the teacher, boring, I'm leaving. You don't. Excuse me, Miss Jones, you're boring me now, so could I leave? And so what I'm telling you is, that's the way life is too, really. And that's the way, so now listen to this part. That's the way it is for me too. I'm not kidding. I mean, and I'm way older than 7. Every part of every day is like that for me. And I get to choose what I do. So part of every day goes for me like that. They're the really fun parts, and then there's some parts of every day that I have to do that are kind of boring. I had to mow the lawn today. I had to clean up the junk that was on the ground because I fixed the roof today. And you know what? It was boring. It was boring. But I had to do it. I couldn't say, oh, well, I'm not going to do that because, well, I'm bored. No, you have to do it. So, welcome to living, sweetie. It's true like that for all of us. So, what do you do when you get to the boring part? This is where you learn to be a man. So pay attention to this part. When you get to the more boring parts, you try to find ways to make it more interesting. It would be nice if it was all the fun stuff. Like when you go to camp, really enjoy the fun outdoor stuff. You know, the hiking, the swimming, the shooting bows and arrows and all. Enjoy that stuff with your friends. And when you get to the boring stuff, do something to make it more interesting. So like when I get to the mowing the lawn part, I try to do stuff to make it funner. I sing out loud when I'm mowing the lawn. That makes it more interesting. I memorize stuff in my mind, and I repeat it back to myself when I'm doing mowing the lawn. I carry a piece of paper with me when I'm mowing the lawn, and I think of ideas for stories or answers to video chats like I'm doing right now, and I write them down while I'm mowing the lawn, so it's less boring. So like you said, some of the songs, dumb songs at camp, boring. All right, so make it less boring. So when they're singing dumb songs, do something more interesting. Sing louder than anybody else. Scream the song. Practice singing the song with your mouth closed. Sing it through your nose, which is a very interesting experience, by the way. Try singing a song with your mouth closed and sing it through your nose, which is, if you have, by the way, a cold, very interesting, because then it's kind of, you sing it through bubbles. You can do all kinds of interesting things. Sing it upside down. Face the campfire and put your head between your legs and sing it upside down with your head between your legs. Do something. Make it interesting. But don't be bored. Welcome to life, sweetie. Here's another child who says, at the end of my brother's game at the baseball park, a girl said about my brother, and she used his last name, and said, he played horrible today. So I wondered if my brother heard that, I bet he would be really sad. Do you have anything to say about that? Yeah, I do. All of our lives, what we've done is we've avoided hearing comments like that. And so what if you heard that? Instead of avoiding hearing that, or instead of dancing around hearing a comment like that, what if you were standing right there next to him? What would you do? Turn to him and say, so, how did you play today? Instead of going, oh no, you played really good. No, how did you play? You sucked today. And I don't care. I still love you. Do you want to play when we get home? We're always lying to people and trying to make them feel good we lie about how they did. The best compliments, the best I've ever felt in my life is when somebody has not lied to me. It's like, I played the piano all my life. And I remember one time when I played the organ in front of a large congregation of people. Several hundred people. I played the organ and I made several mistakes. And many people maybe wouldn't have noticed, but somebody who plays the organ did. And so the meeting's over with. I'm on my way back to my seat. It's all done. And I saw somebody who did know how to play the organ, and she winked at me and she said, well, you really screwed that up. And I said, and see, I was relieved. Instead of having somebody come up to me and say, oh, you really did a nice job, what she was telling me was, you really screwed that up. You played badly. And with her whole facial expression and tone of voice, what was she saying? You screwed up, you played badly, and I love you. That's what she was saying. Well, what a wonderful thing to hear. So that I know that I don't have to play good in order for her to like me, you see? So we need to quit avoiding hearing things like that. The truth is, sometimes we really suck at stuff. Well, great, big deal. As opposed to dreading hearing those words. Oh, I played badly. Yeah, probably did. Big deal. Not a problem. Here's somebody who asks, is Mother's Day in the same category as Christmas as far as trading imitation love? Well, you see, almost all of the scheduled holidays are opportunities for trading imitation love. As soon as you schedule a holiday and the attendant gift giving, then what you're saying is, here's a time when you can expect gifts from other people, isn't it? Well, that's a disaster. As soon as you expect a gift from somebody else, and it doesn't matter what day it is, whether it's Christmas or your birthday or Valentine's Day or Mother's Day or whatever, if you expect a gift from anybody on any day, it doesn't matter what name you call the holiday, you're dead. So if you're a mother and you're expecting your kids to call you or give you a gift or a whatever on Mother's Day, and then they don't, look how you ruin your life. And you ruin your kids' lives because they're all going, oh man, I have to get Mom something for Mother's Day. And they spend all that time worried that they're not going to get the right thing. And then if they don't, you're irritated, you're disappointed, your feelings are hurt. Even if they do get the right thing, you're just going, well, okay, you're just satisfied. That whole scheduled gift-giving thing is just horrible, which is why a long time ago in our family, we just quit it. All of it. We just gave it up. Now, that's what I recommend for people expecting it. But what if you've got people in your life for whom it's just really important? What if you've got somebody who doesn't understand real love? Now, in our family, we told everybody, we said, we're not doing Christmas, we're not doing birthdays, we're not going to do that whole gift-giving thing anymore. But with the people for whom these days matter, we still, like on Mother's Day, and so we still call them. We still tell them we love them. We still send them a card. We still make genuine expressions of love and concern to them. We don't just go, we're going to drop the whole thing and not care about you anymore. And there are certain people for whom it could be really hurtful. And you're going to have to figure out who those people are. If you've got some person in your family, for example, that would be devastated, that it would be devastated if they didn't get a Christmas present, you might actually have to continue doing that if the harm would be great enough. So primarily I'm talking about not expecting these things for yourself. It's always about the communication of love. And if the only way that a particular person in your life could ever even begin to feel loved is to receive a gift, it may not be smart to remove the only way they're ever going to feel loved. Do you see? But boy, these holidays are just a hoot. They're celebrations of expectations and imitation love. Just a riot. So it's been fun being with you guys. You've sent in lots of great questions ahead of time, and we've had some really good questions live. So we're going to meet again a week from tonight, and I think we're meeting a week from today. We're going to be out in Phoenix, Arizona, at which time we'll be with you again. And between now and then, remember, as always, that it's always about real love. We'll see you then. Bye.